You're listening to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MPR. My name is Grady Hooker, and thank you very much for coming along to our 7th anniversary show. We've been doing this show now for 7 years on FreeFM, and really want a big thank you out to Phil, Mike, and all the guys. John, when we first came on, who've helped make Wrestling Roundup possible for the last 7 years. But to celebrate our 7th anniversary, I got together a crew. You might be asking, where's Josh? He's coming later on. But basically, we've got 7 of us on the show this week, and everyone is going to discuss someone who they think was the best wrestler in the last 7 years. We got a couple streamers, we got a couple ex-guests we've had on the show, we got some other radio hosts from other channels in New Zealand, and then Josh and I will come back on at the end and wrap it all up with his pick, my pick, and send you all home. So hopefully you enjoy the show, and we're going to just roll straight on into that first guest right about now. David Dunn from NZPWI, and your pick is Okada.
That's right. You know, I, at this point in time, would consider Okada one of the all-time greats already. I'd put him right up there with the likes of, 1980s Ric Flair, anyone else, Kiboshi, Misawa, anyone that people would refer to, Shawn Michaels. And Okada has pretty much been active almost exclusively in the past 7 years on the same time frame as the Wrestling Roundup. So I think he is a no-brainer choice for my top wrestler of the past 7 years. You look at Okada, and you look at these amazing series of matches that he's had. His matches with Tanahashi are honestly going to go down with the likes of Flair versus Steamboat and their trilogy. You look at his matches he had against Kenny Omega. They broke the scale when it comes to Dave Meltzer and his star ratings, and I'm sure many people around the globe, myself included, think of them very highly. And it's not just Tanahashi and Omega, though. Okada has wrestled a who's who of talent throughout Japan, throughout the world, really. Over this period of time, the last 7 years, he's headlined shows in the United States of America. He's headlined shows across Australia. He even headlined a show in Auckland, New Zealand, if you can believe that. Seems like a lifetime ago, but he did. He was there, and it was a sight to see. And he's always wrestling these high-quality matches, and it doesn't really matter who his opponent is. He brings out the best in them every single time. And that's why I think he's just undoubtedly my number one choice for the top guy of the last 7 years.
He also doesn't seem to be showing any signs of slowing down. Is there anything you think is next up, or any sort of matches you want to see with Okada?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting once New Japan gets their schedule back up and running to see Okada without the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, because for the better part of the last 7 years, he has been the man who's had the belt around his waist. So for this new period of time that we're going to be coming into, Okada is no longer the champion. It's around the waist of Tetsuya Naito. So to see what Okada can do, not necessarily in the main event every given night, to see what he can do with some of the lower card wrestlers potentially, I think that's going to open up even a much wider part of Okada's skill set, and we're really going to see how talented he is when he's working at any given spot up and down the card.
Is there any dream matches there? You talk about those mid card or those lower card guys. Anyone you really want to see face them?
We were lucky enough over the last couple of years to see Okada and Will Ospreay have a couple of matches, which is super rare because they're part of the same faction. So that's not necessarily going to happen any given time soon. But when it comes to the tournaments that New Japan has, those faction alliances go out the window. So if we come time for the G1 climax and there's a chance to see Will Ospreay and Okada in the same block, I would absolutely love to see those two with how much they've progressed since the last time they met even. I'd love to see those two go one-on-one, perhaps headlining a G1 show.
Sweet. Well, if anyone wants to hit you up or hit up NZPWI, where can they do that?
Head along to nzpwi.co.nz, check out all the news on there, and otherwise you can catch me on Twitter at David_Dunn.
Easy as that. Well, thanks a lot for coming along and picking Okada.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
And now we're up with a New Zealand streamer, TimProvise. Hey man, how you doing?
Hey man, I'm good, thanks.
Your pick has been Brock Lesnar. So why do you think he's the top superstar of the last 7 years?
Well, when he came in 2012, here's my thinking, is that from 2012, that's when he kind of came back, and he had some losses in 2012 that were a bit, he lost to Cena and Triple H. But then from 2013, this dude just went on a rampage. Like he like at SummerSlam, he beat CM Punk in what was like, I reckon, was both of their best matches. And then 2014, he shocked the world with the big breaking the streak. Man, he just went crazy from 2013. I don't know if there's anybody else that will even match what he's done. Like, and then he had that one, where he lost to Reigns at WrestleMania. Yeah, I get it. He doesn't fight a lot, but when he does, actually, when he's in there, everybody, he gets eyes on pay-per-views, and that's really what you want, right? Man, he killed the Undertaker in Hell in a Cell as well. Murdered Dean Ambrose at 32, and then like directly after at SummerSlam, like pretty much drowned Randy Orton in a pool of his own blood, and it was the best. I can't see anybody that could match up with his resume. I mean, he gave Goldberg his first clean loss of his career, and his first, and only one as well, I suppose. And then, I mean, you look at the resume, and it's Samoa Joe, it's Braun Strowman, it's Reigns twice, it's AJ, it's Daniel Bryan, it's Finn Balor, it's Kane, it's Kofi Kingston in 7 seconds. Like, there's nobody in the world that has kind of like lifted the game like Brock has in the last 7 years, I don't think.
Why do you think that is? Is it just his level of intensity, or is it the legitimacy that he brings from his MMA background?
I think it's just his athleticism. Like, he's just a big dude that can like jump and go hard. Like, some of the stuff he does at his age as well. But yeah, I think you're onto it though. He does bring that fire and that intensity. But yeah, and he also brings that he's polarizing. Like for a wrestling purist, you kind of like, man, he's kind of done the groundwork in the years that he did before, in the at the tail end of the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era. But I mean, man, this dude just went through it. He's just crazy, man. Like, yeah. And then even like we think about it when he won Money in the Bank, right? That was scary. Like whenever you heard his theme music pops on, or Paul Heyman comes out, everybody shits their pants. It's great. He is legitimately he's the final boss. Like, if you think about it, like in any video game, there's always this final boss. It's M. Bison, or he's the M. Bison of wrestling. It's the best to see.
You mentioned the CM Punk match being his best one. Is there another match that you recall as being this is a really good Lesnar match he's had?
I'll tell you, actually, just recently, him, and I know it's not a match, but his showing in the Royal Rumble was absolutely was crazy. Like, it was the first time in a long time where I thought, holy crap, I think this guy might just run through everybody, and he nearly did. But just the theatrics of it was really cool, and it was different. It was different to see, and I thought for me, but I mean, the AJ match went for like that was at a Survivor Series, and the AJ match went for like 20 minutes, and it was just counter after counter, and the story they told in that match was amazing. So yeah.
All right, man. If someone wants to catch you or catch one of your streams, where do they find the links?
Yeah, I'm just on twitch.tv/TimProvise, and on Twitter I'm TimProvise NZ. So that's me.
Sweet. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thanks, dude.
And our next guest is another New Zealand streamer. This one is Ryan Hullitude. Hull, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, thank you, Grady. Yourself?
Yeah, we're going. But you have chosen AJ Styles as your best wrestler for the last 7 years. Explain to us why.
I think it's really simple. He is probably the only wrestler that has won major matches and titles in multiple organizations within those 7 years, especially the two biggest ones, which would be New Japan Pro Wrestling and WrestleMania. And he was also the first person, WrestleMania, I meant WWE, and he was also the first person, I'm pretty sure, that wrestled both a Wrestle Kingdom and a WrestleMania in the same year. So if that doesn't give him the title as, best wrestler of the last 7 years, I don't know what does already.
Yeah, he's jumped around the promotions quite a bit, but throughout that last 7 years, is there a specific match that you can put down as maybe this was AJ Styles' best match?
AJ Styles' best match in the last 7 years. That's a hard one. My favorite match of all time of his is his triple threat with Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe, but fortunately that was way longer than 7 years ago. I would say probably AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura at Wrestle Kingdom 9, I believe it was. WWE tried to recreate this amazing match at WrestleMania, and it just didn't have the same feel to it. But the one at Wrestle Kingdom was incredible, and I think it was my real introduction to how good Shinsuke Nakamura is as well. So I feel like they brought the best out of each other, and it was also the last match, big match that they both had in New Japan before moving to WWE. So you could say it was like the last best match without any restraints.
So you talk about AJ Styles in the WWE and in New Japan. Did you prefer one over the other?
In terms of matches, New Japan by far, but I feel like his character was way more fleshed out in WWE. I mean, let's face it, WWE care more about the characters than the wrestling half the time, so I guess that makes sense. But anything from like his heel run all the way up to being the baby face of SmackDown, I just feel like AJ, the person, was more established and fleshed out in the WWE. But if you want the matches and if you enjoy matches over character, then New Japan was the way better one to watch.
So you say he's held a whole lot of championships, quite often at the help of some sort of stablemates. We've seen WWE try to recreate the Bullet Club, but how much do you think that Bullet Club sort of helped AJ Styles?
I think it was a massive moment. Like, if you think about it, he went from New Japan after being in Ring of Honor for a short stint after leaving TNA/Impact. And he was never really part of a group in Impact. There was the Christian Coalition at one point, but he was playing second fiddle to Christian. And then he feuded with the Main Event Mafia at one point and against Fortune, etc., etc. And then in New Japan, Finn Balor leaving, he was Prince Devitt at the time, passed the reins on to AJ. And to most people, this is when they were introduced to the Bullet Club, because that was when the Young Bucks eventually got introduced as a bigger threat, and Omega got brought in, and you had Anderson and Gallows, who had been there for a while, but with AJ, they just seemed to click, so I guess that's why I didn't want to pick them up as a unit, because they worked really well, but then, as WWE does, they dropped the ball because they didn't know what to do with them once they had got them.
And if we look at AJ Styles now, he's obviously got his WrestleMania match with The Undertaker coming up, but is there any sort of dream matchups, any superstar from any company?
Oh man, when you lay it on me like that, I would love an AJ Styles versus like Hiromu Takahashi from New Japan. I think Hiromu with his crazy antics could bring out amazing AJ. I'd love to see the new Naito versus AJ, Tetsuya Naito. In terms of WWE, I'd really love to see an Adam Cole versus AJ Styles match on a WWE platform to see how that is. Hell, even a Velveteen Dream versus AJ Styles match would be up there. And I hate this one because it's always talked about, but I would love to see a Shawn Michaels in his prime versus AJ Styles. I feel like that would have been absolute gold to watch.
All right, thanks a lot. If anybody wants to get a hold of you or catch one of your streams, where do they hit up?
Just hit up twitch.tv/Hullitude, or you could also check out my Twitter, which is twitter.com/Hullitude, where I'll post when I'm going live on there as well.
Sweet, well, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So you might recognize our next guest if you listen to Wrestling Roundup all the way back those 7 years ago, or some sporadic episodes through the middle. Once again, on the line, we have Brandon.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy anniversary!
It's been a while, but we've called you back up for the anniversary show, and you've selected Seth Rollins as your guy. And why is he the best wrestler of the last 7 years?
Yeah, it was a pretty tough choice. There's really, really, really good talents out there that have made a huge impact. I know that I told you, but the viewers don't know. But I actually originally picked Becky Lynch because I thought she had such an impact on the women's division. Then I just kept going back to Seth Rollins and thinking about all the accolades he's had over the past 7 years. WWE champion, Universal champion, United States champion, Intercontinental champion, tag team champion, you name it. He's won it, and he's even beaten Brock Lesnar, and I think that's an accolade in itself. So that's why I think Seth Rollins is the best wrestler of the last 7 years, based on all of the accolades he's accomplished over that time.
So you talk about beating Brock Lesnar. Is there a specific match that reminds you every time you watch, this is why Seth's the best?
There was one match. It was the Royal Rumble a couple years ago. It was a triple threat match. John Cena versus Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins. And I remember watching that match and just going, man, this guy is going to be good. And that was, I think, a couple of years back, maybe like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, around that. And they actually just replayed it on Raw the other night. But yeah, that was one of the matches where I went, wow, this guy's pretty good. But I think, that initial turn to a villain is really where he cemented himself as a top talent.
So he's done both. He's done, obviously the villain when he betrayed the Shield. He was a face in between that. Now he's back at a villain again. Now, is there a specific alignment that you prefer him on?
That's a pretty good question. I think he's good at both. I thought he was at his hottest point when he was that good guy going against Brock Lesnar into that WrestleMania last year. I thought that was where he was at his peak. And hopefully he can get back up to that peak. I think he's kind of had like a little bit of a... He's won, the tag team championship, as a bad guy now. But I really think that was his hottest point at the top of the pyramid, where he was going into WrestleMania, challenging Brock Lesnar, and he beat Brock Lesnar. That's, I think, was his highest point. I think it was his best, his one of his biggest career moments.
At the moment, he's sort of switched off into this Messiah kind of character. How you seeing that?
I think it has a lot of potential. I think they've kind of been misused a little bit. I think there could have been more that could have been done with it. But that's not really Seth Rollins' fault. I think that he's done a great job with what he's given and what he's come up with. I know the injury to one of the AOP members has kind of hurt them, and this whole craziness that's going on with the world and WrestleMania is kind of throwing a wrench into what's going on with the Monday Night Messiah. But I think it has a lot of potential, and I'm interested to see where they're going to go with it next, because like I said, it has a ton of potential.
So across the entire landscape of wrestling, start to finish, is there anyone that you'd want to put up against Seth Rollins in like a dream match in their heyday?
In my opinion, the best wrestler of all time is Macho Man Randy Savage. So I think that would be a pretty interesting matchup, because they are both super charismatic and they're both fantastic in the ring. So yeah, I think Seth Rollins versus Macho Man, I think that would be one of the matches that I would like to see. Macho Man versus anyone, really.
Who wins though, Seth versus Macho?
I think Macho Man has to win that match. I think Miss Elizabeth is going to get in there, distract Seth Rollins, but Seth Rollins also has, his guys in his corner. He has the Monday Night Messiah crew in his corner. So I don't know, it could go either way, but I think Macho Man would win that match for sure.
All right, thanks a lot for taking some time out and chatting to us. I know you don't have any social media, but do you have any final words for the listeners?
I would just like to say thanks for having me. It's been quite a long time. It might be, the full 7 years or so since we last, we talked on Skype for Wrestling Roundup. So thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
And now we're here with Sammy G from the PB&H show on NPR. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. You've thrown me for a loop. I asked you to pick your top superstar for the last 7 years, and you threw me Bray Wyatt.
Yeah. So, well, I can't choose the Undertaker because he hasn't been around too much, but Bray Wyatt's like the next best thing for me. Like his main roster debut was 7 years ago. He's been through a lot of good and bad booking. He's been thrown in with some top superstars. He's put on some interesting matches. And just, whatever they throw at him, he always seems to bounce back from it. And the whole reinvention of Bray Wyatt as the Fiend / this whole Mr. Rogers style character it's just captivating, and I'm enjoying what he's doing, and it's fresh and it's different and it's fun and it's scary, and it's like all those fun things that, again, a reflection of what The Undertaker's kind of been through over his almost 30-year career.
Yeah, he's had some interesting matchups, as you said. Is there a specific one where like that's sticking out to you as sort of that crazy level stuff?
I'll be honest, I wasn't a fan of what they did, but the whole Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt WrestleMania match with all of the projection stuff that they did on the ring, I wasn't big on that. But at the same time, knowing that Taker Reigns was going to be the main event, I was like, maybe they're building up to something and that might come into play. If that was going to be Taker's, match of all matches kind of thing. But yeah, no, that was an awesome situation, but just bad execution when it came to the actual match.
Yeah, do you think, obviously pretty young guy, what do you think's in the future for Bray Wyatt?
I think I've said this on PB&H myself, but like if I had my dream scenario for Bray, I would give him The Undertaker for SummerSlam, and with Bray, picking up the victory, and that being sort of Undertaker's passing of the torch moment, that would lead to Survivor Series, which would be the 30 Years of the Dead Man officially, where he could hopefully have that dream match against Sting, and then both of them can ride off into the sunset, and Bray Wyatt can continue on his legendary journey.
Is there something that sort of sticks out to you about Bray Wyatt that just makes him so captivating?
Some wrestlers are really good at using their eyes, which will sound kind of strange, but I have a theater and film acting background. So, again, The Undertaker, Bray Wyatt, Kane had to do it a lot behind the mask. Mick Foley, like just little subtle things that you can see in their eyes. And especially when Bray was doing the whole cult leader thing, like just staring down the camera and just like really drawing you into whatever he was saying. Yeah, sounds a little bit airy-fairy, but yeah.
No, I definitely got you there. It gives you that sort of intensity and that extra layer of emotion. Anyone can say, this is a big match, it's an important match, but then to show it and to express it in your face is a bit of a lost art at the moment.
Another person that's good at it is like John Cena. One of the examples that just hit me in the head was Bray Wyatt's match against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 31. So take his first match after losing the streak. I mean, I've chosen Bray Wyatt, but he's like my replacement Undertaker, which is why like Taker comes up so much in this.
They're weirdly, for guys who are not like storyline intertwined, they are still pretty intertwined.
Yeah, and I mean, they did the whole thing around 25 Years of the Dead Man with the Wyatt family kidnapping the Brothers of Destruction, and then what ended up being a squash from the BOD against the Wyatts.
All right, man. If anyone wants to reach out to grab you to listen to the PB&H show, how do they reach you?
We are on 999 AM in the Manawatu. We're on npr.nz/show/PB&H show. We are on the accessmedia.nz app, along with the Wrestling Roundup. And we are also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I think just if you type in PB&H show, which stands for Pipe Bombs and Headlocks, you can find us that way. Also at PB&H show. Across all social media, you'll be able to find us. I have a new co-host since we last spoke, who is a wrestler himself. So lots of fun coming.
All right, thanks a lot for having a chat to us today.
And congratulations on 7 years yourself.
And now, last but definitely not least, live on Skype, we got Josh.
Hi.
Welcome to the 7th anniversary show, but you have chosen as your best wrestler of the last 7 years, Roman Reigns.
Look, it's honestly, it was between AJ Styles and Roman Reigns. AJ Styles is the technical best wrestler in the decade. But the thing is that most often, as proved by 2000's HBK, the best wrestler is not the top guy. And while AJ's had one heck of a run in WWE since his debut, the guy is Roman Reigns. Reigns has won 4 world championships if you throw in the Universal title, the Intercontinental title, the US title. He won a tag team title with Seth. So that makes him a Triple Crown champion and a Grand Slam champion. And he did that all in a matter of like 3 years. He's won the Royal Rumble. And arguably, outside of John Cena, he is the biggest name in the company that's full-time. He's the biggest name in the company full-time. And then you have Cena, who's obviously bigger because of Hollywood and his previous body of work. But Reigns has done all this while getting all these unnecessary hate that he doesn't deserve. And then he had the situation with the leukemia coming back. He's overcome that. And now he's back to being at the top of the card again.
Yeah, so the guy's obviously had quite a good 7 years. Is there a specific match or specific feud that you can point at and be like, that was a really good Reigns match?
Well, there are many, but the first one that comes to mind is his Extreme Rules match. He had at Extreme Rules with the Big Show. That was an incredible match back when Big Show was still having issues. So the fact Reigns was able to pull out that with him was great. The match he had with Seth for the WWE Championship was really, really great. Back at Money in the Bank in 2016.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well the guy's also done everything, right? Like he's done Rumbles, he's won pretty much every championship there is laying around. What do you?
And if you want to win a Rumble, make sure that Roman Reigns is the last person standing, because you're going to win it 4 times out of 5. You've done that's been the case.
Yeah, he's definitely a great runner-up as well. What is next for Roman Reigns? What is on the horizon?
I would assume once everything clears up and we can get back to some sort of normalcy, I assume that SummerSlam he'll probably capture the Universal Championship from whoever has it at the time, because we really don't know anything. But that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing him taking his spot as champion, and then seeing if they can build up a heel to chase him.
Mm-hmm. Is there? Obviously, we talked about matches, Big Show, Seth Rollins, and stuff like that. The guy debuts with the Shield, and then has this huge piece, and then transitions off more into his singles character. Did you prefer one of those over the other?
I can't really say so, because technically, they're the same person. I will admit that. Roman Reigns in the Shield, circa 2002 to 2014, and Roman Reigns, the individual, 2014 to 2020, I'll say 2018, are the same person. Since he's come back from leukemia, he is tweaked quite a bit, but still not far off from the other characters.
I guess it's hard to perfect or improve upon perfection then, if that's what the character that fits and that's the character that works, right?
Yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Even though WWE has a history of doing that.
Yeah, they love to fix things. Alright, well, I'm going to jump in now and take over for a chunk to discuss some guys who I think should have been on people's lists. Obviously, we only had 7 people to chat to, so we could only have so many people on lists. But I just want to throw in a few more names just to get some recognition here, some honorable mentions. Daniel Bryan was mentioned by quite a few people. Obviously, had his Yes movement 2013, 2014. Moved up, big matches. Had his injury, came back from his injury, and remained sort of that level of hype that he was before. Then we also have John Cena. I know you mentioned him. 16-time world champion, had plenty of fantastic matches within the last 7 years. He had his United States Championship run where he had his Open Challenge. He had his AJ Styles feud, which was a pretty good one. A bit more sporadic now than his previous full-time past, obviously due to Hollywood and stuff like that, but still great guy, great wrestler. His Make-A-Wish stuff sort of makes him a great person, and nobody can debate that. Chris Jericho, he's jumped around in the last 7 years. He's done WWE, where he had his List of Jericho, Festival of Friendship stuff. He's jumped over to New Japan, had his feuds with Kenny, the Intercontinental title run over there, and now he's dumped over to AEW, was their first world champion, held that belt for a little while, and just sort of jumped around these different companies, having pretty good matches across the board, and elevating some people along the way. Talking about Kenny, I'd be remiss to not put him on this list as well. Kenny Omega sort of spearheaded the New Japan launch out into America. Bullet Club, Elite stuff. Had quite a few matches in AAA as well. Now running AEW over there as well. Sort of rechanging that landscape. But overall, his work in New Japan, I think, puts him towards the top of the list anyway. And talking of New Japan, the last person I'm going to quickly mention is Hiroshi Tanahashi. The guy pretty much was the ace of New Japan for the last many, many years. Obviously, Okada sort of stepping into that role now, but Tanahashi's still an 8-time IWGP Heavyweight Champion, had the Intercontinental Champion. That belt is pretty much iconic over his shoulder, and the guy has just been carrying that company on his back for quite a while, so I want to throw him into the mix as well. There we go. That is... It ended up being 7 guests and 11 wrestlers, I think, in the end. Do you have any final words, Josh, about any of the 11 guys or last 7 years or anything you want to mention at all?
I'm just amazingly impressed that we're still going. 7 years ago, we started this journey, and I honestly expected it to last like 6 months at most.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are, about ready for this 36th annual WrestleMania, and we're still going strong. And as long as people want us on the air, we'll stay on the air.
Yeah, I remember back before Wrestling Roundup started, and I'm going to try and not go too long, or I might have to cut it and put it on the YouTube version, but when we did Curtain Jerkers, it was more of a text-based thing, and a couple mates started a radio show, a different one, and I was like, hey, that sounds cool, maybe I could convince them to do a wrestling radio show. Call up FreeFM, they say, yeah man, let's do it, and I'm like, yeah, I can dedicate my mornings for a little while. You know, and then uni hits hard, and then some life stuff hits hard, and I don't know. I don't think I've ever been this sort of dedicated to doing something weekly. You know, I travel to Europe twice now. We still record while I'm over there. We've recorded through thick and thin. 7 years is a long time when you think about it. I think if I check, this is episode 360 something. That means like if you watch or you listen to one a day, that would take you a year or more than a year to get through. It's insane how long 7 years is. And I just want to thank all the guys at FreeFM, and then the guys who picked us up, ArrowFM, NPR. Thank anyone who's had a hand in helping the show. That's family, friends, my family, Josh's family, guests we've had on, whether you've been interviewed, whether you're a pro wrestler, whether you're another celebrity, whether you've simply given some feedback that's helped us chug along, or whether you've just listened and got us those numbers and helped us stay on the air. Whether you've watched us on YouTube, liked us on Facebook, followed us on Twitter, interacted with us in any way, just a big thank you goes out to everybody who's helped us make it 7 years, and no signs of stopping. If you, as Josh said, if you guys want us to stay on the air, we'll stay on the air. We'll go until the end of time. Even in these sort of tumultuous times with wrestling at the moment, we will find a way, and we will keep bringing you wrestling content on a weekly basis. But that is all the time we have for this week. It's been great talking to you, Josh.
Bye.
And thank you again, everyone, for coming along on our 7th anniversary show. And we'll see you next week with the results of whatever comes out of WrestleMania.